Hello and welcome back to Always Right, the podcast with me, your host, Charlie Wright. Today, this is different. I'm alone. This is the this is the first podcast I've ever done where it's just me. So it's gonna be interesting for sure. But because I am alone today, I thought that it would be interesting to talk about a an interesting murder case, which I know I'm talking about murder. How shocking! But um, a YouTuber that I love, her name is Bailey Sarian, and she does all these videos like true crime type things, and I love the way that she talks about these cases. And I thought I would try and emulate that energy today while I talk about this. So I've done a lot of research. So this is the first time I'm doing something like this. So if I'm terrible, don't judge me. So in Australia, not a long time ago, it was 2006, there was some murders that were known as like the bodies in the barrel murders. I had like heard about these, and I feel like a lot of people hear about this case a lot growing up. And I don't know, I've just always heard about it, but I never knew the specifics. And I didn't actually know what happened until I did some more research into it. And I feel like a lot of people out there too might not know the exact details of what happened. I'm going to dive into it today. So I'm just going to give you a trigger warning. I'm not going to get too graphic with what happens, but there is some assaults, murder, some pretty bad things. So if you are squeamish or you don't like hearing about these types of things, then maybe just turn this episode off. Yeah, so let's get into it. So there was this woman named Kim Leanne Snibson in 2001. She met a couple by the name of Greg Hosa and Catherine McKay. I'm going to try and say these names correctly. Oh, I don't know. It's my pronunciation's terrible. So this happened in Nowra, New South Wales. This story that I'm about to tell. Kim Leanne Snibson met this couple who owned a horse farm called the Champagne Shires, which was just outside of Nowra. And Kim had always loved animals and she loved horses. And she kept the horses that she owned at this stud farm. And so Kim had a husband and two daughters who I'm not going to name because yeah, I don't think we need to get into the names of her family. It's alleged. I did a lot of research, and it was still there's no real confirmation, but it's alleged that at some point after 2001, when Kim met this couple, that her and Greg, who was the husband, started an affair. Fast forward from 2001 to 2005. So Kim's husband moved from Nowra to Wodonga and took Kim's and the husband's two daughters with him. It's interesting because I think that that is an interesting thing to know, that her husband took their two daughters away from where Kim was. I don't know. It never really gets into specifics about why that happened, or like they weren't divorced at the time. And Kim later like never said the reasons why. So throughout this whole situation, there are a lot of weird and unexplained things that happen. And that's kind of one of them. It's never really explained why Kim's husband left her and took the kids. So now, still in 2005, this is when there are two other characters added to this story. One is named Andrew Flentjar, and the other one is named Stacey Lee Caton. And Stacey is a man. So Stacey and Andrew are these two men. So anytime I say Stacey, I'm talking about a man, not a woman. You just have to keep that in mind. So In 2005, we don't know if it's before or after Kim's husband moved with the daughters. We don't know. But basically, it's alleged that Kim ended the affair with Greg after Greg sent her a video of Kim drunk and people having sex with her against her will, and she had no knowledge of this video existing, and she did not remember this incident. So Stacy comes into this story because Kim was telling Stacy about this, and she was explaining how she hates Greg and she can't believe that Greg would do something like this. And to quote Kim, she said to Stacy that she wanted to give him a flogging. Also in 2005, Kim says to this other man, Andrew Fletcher, she told him that her daughter had been assaulted and that the attack had been videotaped, and that Kim wanted to find the perpetrators and get this video from them. And Andrew agreed. He thought it was disgusting that this had happened to her daughter, and he agreed to help Kim find the perpetrators. I think it's important to note here that neither Stacy or Andrew had ever seen the two separate videos that Kim brought up to each of them. But I think it's important to know that neither of them had ever seen these two videos. So Kim was really manipulating them and telling them that these horrible things had happened. But we'll get into that later. So now it's the day of the incident, which is January 28th, 2006. So the day starts with Kim in Wodonga, and she takes her two daughters from Wodonga back to Nowra and drops her daughters off at a friend's house. So then Kim tells Stacy, and I quote, "We are going to bash them up and tie them up." So this is in reference to Greg and Catherine, but Stacy didn't know that. He didn't even know their names. He just believed that these people that they were going to do this to were the people that had taken the video of Stacy when she was drunk. So that's all that Stacy knew. He just knew that they were going to beat them up, scare these people. That's all that he knew at that point. So sorry, I should have clarified that this is happening at a house that Kim owned. So Kim is saying all these things to Stacy. So then Kim leaves the house, and then she returns with Andrew. And Andrew and Stacy had never met each other before. So they didn't know each other before this meeting at the house that Kim owned. So we'll get into the house situation a little bit later because it's a little bit confusing. But yeah, so they didn't know each other at that time. And it's important to notice that in the research, it said that they didn't even have time to compare their stories. They didn't even have time to like speak to each other about what was going to happen and why they were doing it, because Kim didn't want them to have time to do it. At 5 p.m. on this day, Kim calls Greg and Catherine, the married couple. She calls Greg, and supposedly the man that she was having an affair with. She calls him and asks him to come to the house to talk about horses and animals. Stacy later told police that Kim told him and Andrew to pounce on Greg when Greg arrived. So when Greg arrives, one of the two men, hit him over the head with a lump of wood and then hog-tied him and dragged him into the bathroom. So Stacy and Andrew allege that the other one, so Stacy says that Andrew was the one who hit Greg over the head with the wood, and then Andrew said that Stacy is the one who actually hit him. So we still don't know who actually did what there. So at this point, Greg is tied up in the bathroom of this house. So at 5:26 p.m., not long after that, Kim rings Catherine, Greg's wife, and asks her to come over to calm her, and I quote, calm her husband down. So Kim was saying that they were having an argument and she wanted Catherine to come around to help calm the situation down. At this point, Stacy claims that Andrew tackled Catherine when she arrived, hog-tied her, and put tape over her mouth, and then dragged her into the kitchen. Andrew and Kim leave the house to buy cleaning supplies because supposedly the wound on Greg's head was bleeding profusely and there was blood all in the house. I know this is graphic, sorry. So they went to buy cleaning supplies. After they return back to the house, Andrew takes Catherine's car back to the Champagne Shires, which is the horse farm where Catherine and Greg lived. So it's alleged that he took the car back there and then he went home. So Andrew now is gone. He is out of the picture. The one thing I found confusing about this is I often wonder how Andrew got back to his house from the farm because he drove Catherine's car there. It's not, well, I don't know the distance between the farm and Andrew's house, but it was said that the farm was outside of Nowra and they all lived inside Nowra. So I don't know. Potentially he walked. I don't know. I just thought it was odd that I couldn't find anywhere how he got back home. But anyway, so Andrew was back at home. He's out of the picture now. Stacy claimed that Kim wrapped packing tape over Catherine's nose. And if you remember, as I said earlier, there was tape already over Catherine's mouth. So supposedly Kim wrapped the tape over Catherine's nose and unfortunately Catherine suffocated. So after this, Kim wrapped electrical fence wire around, this is going to get graphic, around Greg's neck and choked him to death. Stacy and Kim then put the victims into two 44-gallon barrels. And then at some point later on that day, took them into the, I couldn't figure out how to say this, the Turmarang State Forest. While in the forest, they doused the bodies in petrol, and then it's alleged that Kim is the one who actually lit the match and set them on fire. So with the fire burning, Kim and Stacy go home back to the house that Kim had. And then at some point after midnight, so now on the 29th of January, they went back to the bodies, to the fire, because Kim, quote, wanted to see if the bodies were fully burnt, end quote. And so they took more petrol and they emptied more petrol onto the bodies. So after this, Stacy went back to the house that Kim owned, but Kim did not go back there. We still don't know where Kim went at that time. I'm assuming, well, I'm not going to assume anything. We don't know where she was. So on the 29th, I had read conflicting theories that two cyclists supposedly found the fire and called 000. But then I also read that call was made to the volunteer fire service, but they still don't know who the person was who made that call. So I don't know which one of those theories is true about the fire. But basically, the fireys show up and they put the fire out, and then that's when they realize that it's actually two people, two bodies. So prior to the bodies being found, so this actually, it had nothing to do with the actual bodies. At 2:30 a.m. on the 29th, Stacy went to Nowra police and said that two people were tied up at Kim's house, at the house. 2:30 a.m., this is 2.5 hours approximately after they went back the second time to put more petrol on the bodies. And Stacy said that it's alleged that he didn't want that on his conscience, that he knew people were tied up at the house. So this is very confusing to me because I don't understand why he went to the police and said that he saw two people tied up when he knew that they were dead because they had just killed them. I don't know. It's very odd that he's saying he was trying to clear his conscience, but he participated in the murders. I don't know. It's just very confusing to me. And then at some point after that, unrelated to that part, Andrew also called the police after he had seen the news of the two bodies being found in barrels. He told the police that Kim had left two barrel lids at his house the previous day. I find the whole thing to be confusing because Andrew said that he claimed that he didn't participate in any of this at all. But they found Catherine's handbag at his house. So I guess that after he drove Catherine's car back to the farm, he took her handbag back to his house. I don't know. I find the whole thing so confusing. I don't understand why Andrew and Stacy both separately called the police and kind of gave them half information, but not the full truth. Because it's like, I guess that they felt bad, but at the same time, if you really felt that bad, you would have told the truth about what happened and what you did. Back to how the police got Kim. So after Stacy had called the police and told them this, that he had seen two people in the house that were tied up, he also told the police that, sorry, just to clarify, at some point after this, a neighbor told the police that Kim was renting the house to Stacy, but that Kim no longer lived there. She had moved out of the house a month before. Stacy told the police that Kim had organized with him on that day to come back to the house and pick up some animals, supposedly. So that's how the police nabbed Kim, because they were waiting at the house when she arrived. 2 years later, the trial begins. Or no, the trial didn't begin. This is when the trial ends. Sorry. So at the trial, Kim claims that Stacy was the mastermind behind all of this and that she was afraid of him and that he was forcing her to do all of this, which the judge said was completely implausible and made absolutely no sense because Stacy didn't know Greg or Catherine, had no motivation for the murder. It just made no sense. So obviously they knew it was Catherine's doing the whole thing. And they also said that Catherine's claims about the assault on her daughter and the video that Greg had were also fake. There was no evidence. She never provided the videos. There was absolutely zero evidence to support this theory. Now we get to the charges. So Kim was charged firstly with kidnapping, which was 8 years and 6 months. And then she was charged 26 years per murder victim. So that's 62 years. No, 52 years. Wow, my maths is terrible. Yes, so Stacy pled guilty to the murder and the kidnapping. So he got 22 years with 16 years no parole. And then Andrew he was found not guilty of murder, but he was convicted of kidnapping and he served 10 years with 7 years no parole. And so now in prison, people say that she apparently has shown zero remorse for the victims and she doesn't feel bad about what happened at all. So originally it was thought that there was no motive for this. And I guess there still is no clear motive with evidence to support why Kim did this. But it was alleged that Kim wanted Greg to sign over the horse farm to her, but there was no evidence of that. And I don't know whether that was an ongoing thing or if that was what she wanted from this whole thing and kidnapping them. Stacy and Andrew said that she never brought that up after they had kidnapped the two of them. So I think that's a lie. And then it was also alleged that the house that she lived in, that she was renting to Stacy, was given to her. She inherited it through the will of the previous owner of the house, but she was written into the will. So I read that police think that she possibly could have been involved in the murder of the previous owner of the house. But that was never brought up in court and she was never charged or anything like that. So that's just a theory at this point. Kim is eligible for parole in 2030. So in 9 years, she will be eligible for parole. So that's basically the end of the story. It's just crazy that things like this happen and there's still no motive. There's still no reason. And, Greg and Catherine had a 10-year-old son. He just has no closure. There'll never be any closure unless she explains why this happened. And another thing I want to mention is that the alleged affair between Kim and Greg that supposedly was also made up by Kim. And the reason why I think it was made up is because my brain, I'm trying to process it. I don't understand why Kim would call Greg on, the day of the murders and tell him to come over, and he willingly came over if they had previously had an affair and they had broken it off. It doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't think that was real. I think that was all made up by her. There's just so many like different elements that I don't understand. And it's crazy to me how Stacy and Andrew became involved in this without even fully knowing what was going on. But I think that obviously they are responsible for their own part in what happened. But I think it's important to recognize how Kim manipulated them into doing such a horrible thing. But again, it's so bizarre to think about because with manipulation and things like that, there's an end game, like there's a goal, there's something that you want out of it, and we don't know what she wanted out of it, what she wanted out of this situation. Yeah, so that's the end. I know this episode's probably a bit dark, and I don't know, you might not like these solo podcast episodes, but I just couldn't find anyone to podcast with me this week. So I just thought I would do it on my own. Yeah. So if you like this type of thing, if you like true crime, because I like true crime, I like hearing about it and I like talking about it and doing research. So if you like it, leave me a comment and I could do more in the future potentially. But you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Charlie Wright. Charlie has 2 R's in it. And then you can follow this show on Instagram at Always Right Podcast. But thank you so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. But until next time, bye.